Hard to believe that we've already arrived at episode 20, and while the calendar has changed to July, things haven't changed for Inter Miami. 3 straight wins in this period without Lionel Messi, without Luis Suarez, but they're still getting the job done. We talk about it all on this week's edition of the Inter Miami Weekly Show. Another week here above Chase Stadium. Happy to have you with us on the Inter Miami Weekly Show. That's the Arsenal great Kieran Gibbs. I'm Joe Malfa. Kieran, it feels like we say the same thing every week when we start this show. That's because it has been the same thing every week when we're on this show. It's 3 straight, 2-1 wins with some key pieces missing. It's a great time right now for the club.
And another fantastic performance, Joe. Make no mistake, the boys were brilliant the other night. To a man, from Drake all the way up to Campana. I thought they were outstanding. The way they managed the game from the beginning, they surrendered possession early on, and then the way they took control over the game slowly but surely midway through the first half, I thought was just amazing to see. You had Yannick Bright, who I thought was brilliant. He stayed quite central, and so did Campana. And then the midfielders around them, their rotation was just too much for Nashville to handle, and they really dominated the game. And even when Nashville came back into it, I thought the composure that they had to see the game out, some big saves from Drake. It was just a really comprehensive, intelligent performance.
Comprehensive and intelligent from minute 1 to minute 100, because it did get to 10 minutes of stoppage time. So from minute 1 to minute 100, comprehensive. Let's take a look at all those highlights now. Now it's a few games in a row now where it's Inter Miami striking first, and the pressure was on early. They could have scored earlier than they even did.
Yeah, they had so many openings. I felt that the way that they got the players in between the lines and the defenders were finding holes in Nashville's defence was brilliant. Set piece deliveries were excellent, and they just caused problems all over the pitch. And it wasn't until just before the half time that Miami took the lead, and Ian Frey yet again with a carbon copy finish. As it was against Columbus, the way he towers above his man and gets in front. He's always been good at set pieces, and what another amazing moment for him.
And then this one was special, off another set piece, not direct goal off the set piece, but it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure how you leave Jordi Alba with that much time and space at the edge of the box on a set piece, but this is what happens when you do. A player of this quality, and you can tell from as soon as the ball leaves his chest that what he wants to do, and he executes it perfectly. What a finish. One of the goals of the season for me. I
wish that was a few weeks ago so we could have put it in our season recap so far, the best goals and best moments of the season, but that will no doubt be in our end of season recap of the best moments. This one won't be. It's a penalty conceded, maybe needlessly, at the edge of the area with plenty of bodies behind. It would make it 2-1, but the club would still hold on.
Yeah, and it was actually the player's touch that kind of led him to make Yannick make the tackle, but he'll learn from that, and I thought that the boys really just handled from this moment, handled the game so well. They didn't panic, they kept their composure. Drake made some unbelievable saves to really, see the boys through, and it's another comprehensive win from Miami.
My biggest takeaway from the match at this point, Nashville has to hate us. I mean, Nashville just has to hate us. It's 7 matches now against Nashville unbeaten. It's 3 straight matches against Nashville with victories. They've got to be sick of seeing us on the schedule, whether it was Open Cup or Leagues Cup or regular season. Maybe eventually we see them in the playoffs. I don't think it's going to be this year. It doesn't seem like Nashville's going to be above that playoff line this year as they rebuild and try to get back to where they were. But back to the focus on Inter Miami, of course. The couple of things that stood out, maybe that flew under the radar because of the Ian Frey goal, which we'll get to. The returns from injury. Diego Gomez back in the starting 11. Fede Redondo back in the starting 11. 2 pieces to the lineup that we know are massive pieces that if a final were being played tomorrow, 2 guys that are either in or you're heavily considering them in the 11. Vital pieces back out there now just to bolster what has already been a group that's having a lot of success right now.
Yeah, and their return comes at such a really important time for Miami, and they're top players, we know that, but the way they've come back and slotted straight in, I felt that their understanding and relationship between each other in this game particular was really impressive to see. Like I said, the way that Yannick stayed central and he just snuffed out any danger. Campana stayed up top as the target man and didn't really stray too far from the middle of the goal, which is where we want him. It just allowed for those three players in behind him to really rotate, and it was just, Nashville looked lost at times, to be honest, and that was really impressive to see. You don't see too many performances where Miami don't have the ball so much, but they look in complete control of the game, and that's what we saw the other night. It was just a really intelligent performance, and that's what we want to see, especially at this time where you've got players missing. For them to look so comfortable was amazing to see. It's just showing you how far that they've come as a team.
It's interesting. I don't think many people around the league talk about Tata Martino as being in the Coach of the Year conversation. I think the mind goes to some other guys around the league, like Chris Armas in Colorado, who have really rebuilt and had success this year, and there's a few other guys in that conversation. And maybe the biggest discredit to Tata is the stars that are a part of the group. But I think this stretch of games here, 3 straight wins with the key pieces missing, and still 2 more opportunities that we'll get to later on against Charlotte and Cincinnati before the Leagues Cup break. This is starting to probably bring him into that conversation now, where he's puppeteering and orchestrating a really solid stretch during what should be, or what people thought would be, the most difficult stretch of the year.
Yeah, and you have to give him credit. You also have to give the players credit. You can see how much they're learning from the likes of Messi, Busquets, Alba, Suarez. You're really starting to see it, and so yes, you do have to give Tata credit because his ideas and what he's trying to implement to the team are starting to show in the performances, not just the results but the performances. I think they went through a patch for about a month just last month where the performance dipped, but they've really just harnessed themselves and brought that back, and you're seeing the boys flourish now even without the likes of Messi and Suarez. So you do have to give Tata credit for that, because he's the one that picks the team, and at the moment he's just getting the balance of the team, of his selection spot on.
There's something you said, I think 3 or 4 shows back, if anybody wants to go back and watch, but I think it was 3 or 4 shows back, you had mentioned that this could be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, this period of time when those key pieces are missing, because it would force the rest of the group to step up. It would force the rest of the group to focus on the little things, and the things that you mentioned were defending in both boxes, set pieces both defensively and on the attack, and starting games quicker. And these 3 games, these 3 wins, those 3 things have become areas of strength. They've been the team scoring first, they've been scoring on set pieces, and they've been more organized defensively in the box. And when you've got a team that's fixing what were perceived weaknesses, that's a sign of a team that's starting to have the lessons click and move in the right direction. So spot on to you for a couple of weeks ago mentioning that, spot on to the group for going ahead and picking it up. And the one guy we got to highlight again in this group that we talked plenty about last week, and he warrants talking about again, is Ian Frey. You said last week that wasn't going to be a one-time thing. This is a guy who's locked in, who's back again, and is ready to make a statement, and he scores back-to-back weeks on what you said, carbon copy goals.
Yeah, and the thing is, when I saw him in the starting lineup again, I didn't know if he would play or not, just because of, he's been out for such a long time, so you want to make sure that you manage his minutes. But obviously, he felt right to play, and it's hard to stop someone like who's as enthusiastic as Ian Frey to get on the pitch. So, but I kind of have to say I'm not surprised at his impact, even though it is remarkable what he's done and what he's doing. I mentioned last week that his celebration said it all last week when he scored that goal, and it was almost as if he wants to make up for lost time. And that's the attitude that he's taking at the moment, and that's why you're seeing, the impact that he's having. I'm so happy for him at the moment. I don't want to touch too much on it because I don't want to jinx it. Right. And I like the form that he's in and the attitude that he's showing. I sent him another message to just congratulate him. But for me, he's could play a really important role this season, especially with the injuries and stuff that we're having. He's come in at a perfect time, and he's taking his chance with both hands at the moment.
Now, he comes in at a perfect time because this is maybe the most difficult week of the season for Inter Miami as we start looking ahead now to what lies ahead. It's a Wednesday night fixture on the road against Charlotte, a team that lost one of their last 10 only before their loss this past weekend against Houston. So coming in overall in a great stretch of form, only 2 losses in their last 11 games. And then it's the big one on the weekend on the road against Cincinnati. That's the race right now between number 1 and number 2. So we'll get to Cincinnati in a moment, but let's first focus on Charlotte, led by Dean Smith, who was manager at Aston Villa in your time over in the Premier League, and are familiar with him, and they play just a great defensive brand where they're among the league leaders in terms of fewest goals conceded. Very difficult to play through. They're in good form. They're 10 points back of first place right now, so a nice little cushion between Inter Miami and Charlotte, of course, for now. But still, one that kind of creeps up on you as an under-the-radar big game against a team that's in surprisingly good form right now.
Yeah, and when you have a new manager that comes in and has a good impact, you always got to be careful of those teams because, especially a manager like Dean Smith, he has a good way of giving his players confidence, and he has a clear way of playing, and so it's important that the boys, look at how they're playing. They've done so well at the moment of sussing out how teams are playing and working out as a team how to nullify their strengths and focus on their weaknesses. So I hope that they can continue that. And Charlotte's a hostile place to go to as well. The fan base is cool there, so I'm sure that they're gonna be welcomed with a lively atmosphere, and it's an exciting game to play. This is the time now where you hope that the timing of Inter Miami's performances have come at a great time for them to really put in strong performances, and I fancy them in this game.
Going on the road to a team like that in Charlotte, who, if you look down the list, it's a lot of 1-0s, it's a lot of 0-0s that's on their ledger. Going into a game knowing it's going to be that tight, do you change your approach at all if you're Tata Martino and maybe sit back yourselves? We've seen Inter Miami a couple of times this year, even the game right here in the rain against DC United where it was tight, it was 0-0, and eventually Leo Campana wins it. But do you change the approach at all knowing that Charlotte's at home, like you said, hostile environment, and they're a team who inherently sits back and keeps the game tight? Does that change the mind at all in how to attack it if you're Inter Miami?
Well, I think if you look at the last couple of performances for Miami, they have actually done that. They've soaked up early pressure really well, and they've not left themselves too exposed in the early stages of games, and it's actually done them well for the rest of the game. So I would like to see them continue that, because if you start from a solid structure with the talent that they have at the moment and the form that they're in up the top, you have to think that they're going to create chances. I mean, they created so many chances against Nashville in this last game. So I'm enjoying the way that they're playing at the moment. I would like to see them, stay in that kind of pattern of play, and see how they go, because we've seen their games get quite chaotic, and as entertaining as it is, it's good to see them, playing games with a solid structure, and creating chances when they need to, and just being more efficient.
Before breaking down the on-field against Cincinnati on the weekend and what it means in the standings, I'll ask you this. As a player, as much as you have to compartmentalize and be a professional, how aware is the group that Cincinnati and that 1 versus 2 lies ahead on the weekend, and how difficult is it to make sure you don't overlook Charlotte on this Wednesday fixture?
Yeah, you can't overlook it. I mean, there's always going to be, when you're fighting for the number 1 spot, there's always going to be someone on your tail more often than not at this level. So they're going to be aware that Cincinnati are there, especially after picking up another win at the weekend. What's it, 10 wins in 12?
10 and 12, yep.
Yeah, so that's some really solid form. It's hard to miss that. But I don't think that there will be. I think because of the performances that they've put in recently, they look like they're just focusing in game by game, and that's hopefully how I want them to continue. And I'm sure Tata's going to be on the boys for that, and making sure that they're not looking at the Cincinnati game and focusing on the Charlotte game. And
one silver lining here in this Cincinnati game for the players that we are missing, of course, in Messi and Suarez, but and Matias Rojas, who may be back. The Paraguay Copa America is seemingly going to end. It seems like Colombia and Brazil have that group wrapped up, so just a matter of timing as far as when Matias Rojas would come back from Paraguay. So not sure if he'd be ready yet for that game against Cincy, but possibly. But still no Messi, still no Suarez, of course. Those two are already through to the quarterfinal, and it seems right now Uruguay and Argentina might be on a collision course for the Copa America final, which will be fun to watch, and I'm sure they could have some fun banter about in the locker room afterwards. But silver lining, back to the task at hand here with Cincinnati, they're missing 3 of their center backs right now, a team that traditionally plays out of a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, however you want to dictate it, but there are 3 center backs in Haglund, out for a considerable time. Miazga out for what is reportedly the season, and Miles Robinson right now out on international duty with the United States. So it's a completely makeshift back three in this setup. DeAndre Yedlin, familiar face, will be the right wing back, of course. But going into a game, similar question, how aware are you of that, and do you make it a point to try and exploit that on a night like that?
Definitely. It's important to note that when you have that many players missing, that there's a chance that you can capitalize on weaknesses. But I think that they're still going to be well drilled, those boys that come in, and it's going to be a difficult game, no matter what. So I think that Miami definitely need to focus on Charlotte, but know that that is the big game coming, and they play each other twice in a short space of time as well. So that there's a lot of points up for grabs in this period.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those where you look back on the schedule. You can't look at the calendar. I'll say schedule specifically, because if you look at the calendar, there's a lot of time between this game against Cincinnati and the next one. This one coming up this weekend on July the 6th. The next one's not till August 24th, but it's twice in 4 games because you've got Leagues Cup in between. So if you look back at the end of the year, you've got Cincinnati twice in 4 games, on the road, then at home. This is probably going to be where possibly the supporter shield, because right now it seems like it's going to be for number 1 overall in the league, but at the very least, the Eastern Conference probably or possibly going to be won in these span of 4 games with these two teams.
Yeah, this is a pivotal time, make no mistake. So it's a really important time of the season. I think that, whoever picks up the points in these games, you're probably going to say has the best chance of nicking, the number 1 spot in the Eastern Conference. So, it's that important.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now. I'm gone the next 3 weeks. I'm on holiday, as you would call it, vacation, as I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
We sit here right now. We're in first place. Are we still in first place when I return before Leagues Cup?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I like it. You got to have that confidence.
I'm not going to say any more than that.
It's hard to not have that confidence right now when it's 3 straight wins without some of the big guns, and all by the same scoreline of 2-1, 2-1, and 2-1. So it's a big one on the Wednesday night against Charlotte on the road. It's a massive one on the weekend on Saturday against Cincinnati on the road. It's hard to believe that we're already here again on episode 20 of the Inter Miami Weekly Show, but it's been a great season so far. We hope it continues, and we hope you continue to be with us here on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe so you're with us every week.